When you have to share a thermostat with other people, sometimes you have to maliciously comply. We'll get to that in a bit, but first, I got kicked out of a Catholic church by the priest himself for doing what I was told to do. So, a bit of context, I live in Mexico and we practice Catholicism. For those who didn't know, we have these rituals called First Communion and Confirmation, which every Catholic has to go through at some point of their lives after several semesters of Bible study. Usually people have to first get the First Communion before being able to do the Confirmation. If everything goes well, the person would have completed their confirmation at somewhere around 10 years old. The only problem is, I was around 14 years old and an atheist. At this age, I was just coming out to my family, but it's been a while since my doubts. My family wanted me so badly to do the First Communion and were even pressuring me a bit because I was already way behind. I hadn't had my confirmation due to a lot of moving out and other shenanigans, but I refused. They were rather surprised and started trying to convince me on doing it. After a few months of back and forth, they told me that my uncle, the favorite of my uncles, have never been someone else's godfather. Yes, we have a godfather and godmother in every event, and that he wished to be someone's godfather so much, so I finally accepted. Really just to please him. To be honest, I now see that it was just a dirty trick because my uncle took it very lightly, like, cool, level lightly. Anyway, I'm getting off track. We started preparing everything that I needed for the ceremony, the suits, flowers, a Bible, a place where to hold the event, between other things. One of those were to confess. So we went to a big historical church in my town. We have lots of historical buildings from the Spanish colonization, and they're pretty impressive. My parents told me to go in and confess myself to the priest, so I did. I went in there, I met with the priest, and he took me out to a back room with 2 chairs. He sat me down and asked me to confess my sins, and I let it out. It went something like this. Mind that this was about 8 years ago and my memory's a bit fuzzy. The priest, with a calm and cordial tone, began, "So tell me, what's wrong? What have you done?" Which I replied with, "I haven't really done anything. I'm just here because my parents told me to." The priest looked a little confused and asked, "So why would they tell you to come here if you've done nothing? You must have done something." I again talked and said, "No, not really. You see, I'm doing my First Communion soon, and I was told that I needed to come here." The priest, now even more confused, asked, "Why are you getting your First Communion this late?" Mind that I look way younger than my age, but it was still way too late for a kid to get the First Communion, which was strange to see around these parts. I spoke, now a bit nervous, "Well, I don't really believe in God," and he cut me off and somewhat angrily shouted, "What? You don't believe?" I was allowed to continue as he stared me down with an angry stare. "Well, no, I've doubted for a while and I don't really believe that there is a God." The priest at this point was red. He looked like he wanted to rip my throat out and then he just went off. "Do you think this is a game, huh? How dare you set foot in my church if you don't even believe?" He raises his hand. At the moment, I kind of felt that it was an incoming strike, but instead he aggressively pointed away. "Get out and don't come back until you truly believe." Then I got up and kind of jogged/nervously walked outside the room and closed the heavy old wooden door on my way out. Then I just kind of chickened outside the church. I was both scared and, how do I put it? I know. I can't believe I just did that. That was crazy. Yes, I felt those both things, and I also felt a little bit bad. Anyway, I came back to the car after I switched the look of fear on my face into a fake smile. My parents asked me, "How was it?" And I told them, "Oh, the priest kicked me out." Both of my parents' jaws dropped. Their faces went red with both anger and embarrassment, I believe. And they said, "What?" So I repeated, "Yeah, he kicked me out during the confession." They asked with anger, "What did you say to him?" Which I replied with, "The truth." They knew exactly what I was talking about. We stayed parked while they figured out what to do next, while scolding me from time to time. After a while, they took me to the house of a friend of theirs who was also a priest, and told me to go confess again, but this time to leave that stuff untouched. So I went in there, he asked me what did I do, I told him nothing, and he was like, good enough. We sat there for a few minutes talking about something. I think it was cars and sports. Well, he was talking, I was nodding. Then I went back and told my parents that I did it. After that, I went to an event filled with 6-year-olds. I got my first communion, a free suit, and the best of it all, the respect of my whole family. Now nobody questions my beliefs and/or tries to force me into ceremonies of that nature. Not even my grandmother, and she's an extreme believer, so I'm pretty darn happy with how it went. Though I still feel bad about the priest. I feel like he got caught in between the crossfire. He was just doing his job, I guess. Honestly, this story kind of resonates with me because I was raised in a Christian household, and admittedly over time, I found myself being less and less religious and not really practicing. Personally, I think if the priest was doing his job, he would have done all that he could to try to make you feel comfortable and hope that you reconsider. I think anybody that tries to go, you are either devout or you are excommunicated, is probably going a little too far. Our next story is, are you sure you want me to do that? Okay, there you go. When I, female, was 6, I had a friend that lived next door. She had lost her first milk tooth already with the help of the old slam the door trick, but now she had another loose tooth. She was going on and on about it for days and didn't want to use a door again, but wanted it out before her ballet lesson one day, so she said maybe I should punch it out. I asked her multiple times, at least 5, if she was sure, and she said yes. So I granted her request. The tooth came right out. Of course, she started crying and ran to our parents. They weren't pleased, but after I told them it was her idea, and I asked to make sure multiple times, which she admitted, I didn't get in trouble. You know, I think there's 2 kinds of people. When given the absolute greenest of lights to punch them in the face, you either have somebody that says, "Are you sure? I don't know if that's a good idea," and the other I'm not aware of because they've already punched me and I'm already unconscious on the floor. Our next story is, you don't know Jack. A number of years ago when I worked in a cafe, one of my coworkers named Jack came in sick. Early part of having the sniffles I had judged. Anyway, he mentioned that he was sick, thanks for confirming the obvious, but it was minor and he needed to work. I was tired, 2 jobs, plus going to college, and offhandedly remarked, "Boy, I wish I was a little sick. I could use some time off everything." Then I kinda laughed when I said, "Cough on me, please." Then Jack turns and coughs in my face. The next day, I had nasal congestion and fever. Turns out the sniffles for Jack was the start of the flu. And at that point in my life, I didn't believe in flu shots. I was out for a week, bedridden for most of it. The fallout was missed wages for my 2 jobs. I also worked in a medical lab and struggled to stay up to speed in my classes. As for Jack, he never missed a beat. He wasn't scheduled the next day, but he gladly filled in for me when management called to take my slot. Moral of the story, some people really can't tell when or don't care if you're kidding. There are some Jacks out there that you can never kid with. My ill attempt at humor cost me. Okay, yeah, you see, Jack here is the exact person that says, "Hey, I think you should punch me." You might as well have just considered you hit fast forward and you woke up a week later in a hospital bed somewhere. If you need something and you ask Jack to do it for you, don't worry, he'll do it immediately. Our next story is, you said no spices. So this is an ongoing thing, and figured I'd see about sharing my petty. I suffered an accident in September 22nd, which resulted in lingering headaches and an assortment of random issues. I still do all the cooking for the household, mom, aunt, and me, mainly because I like flavor. My aunt has the diet of a 5-year-old and the temperament to match. These are the dinner tales. Tonight I'm making butter chicken, Americanized. My aunt decided to complain she has a headache and can't stomach my spicy food. I too have a headache and a lack of freaks to give. She will now be getting cut up chicken breast pan-fried in their natural juices. No seasoning whatsoever. I wanted to make sure it's cooked, so it's been in the pan since I put the curry on. Hope she likes the rubber I made for her. Now, what OP did here is absolutely devious. I think it goes without saying that one of the worst meals you can serve is well done, dry, seasonless chicken breast. If you wanted the meat equivalent of walking the vast Sahara Desert with no water, that's what I'd compare it to. Our next story is, complaining your way to a free meal each time you come will make you a special one. Context, my best friend was hired as a temporary cook in a kebab restaurant. During the summer where she worked, she had a woman in her 30s which her and the employees and even the boss ended up nicknaming Rat Woman because of how lying and cheap she always was. Always lying with excuses to not pay up and get a free meal. At her 6th attempt in 15 days, my boss had enough and said to my friend, "Make her a free meal she won't forget." So she did a double burger as asked and loaded it with the most spiciest sauce, which is made with cayenne pepper, something that really makes your tongue on fire. She ate it quickly while every employee had a poop-eating grin. 5 minutes later, she asked for water and chugged 5 glasses easily from how much spices she started to go through. She said, "What have you done with my meal?" My friend answered, "You asked it well spiced. This is our strongest sauce. Not liking it?" The cheap woman finally paid up and never came up again after being shown her tricks won't work up anymore here. I love the kind of petty revenge malicious compliance tales that kind of stay in this pocket. The ones where somebody's complaining or kind of cheating in a way to get a free item. So because you maliciously complied or had your little petty revenge and did something that makes them suffer, they still don't really have any room to properly complain because it was a free meal they kind of cheated their way to get to. It's not like they can say, "Hey, I paid for this. I in no way deserved this." They know they did. Our next story is, roommate set the thermostat to 50 degrees Fahrenheit when it's 35 degrees Fahrenheit outside. For context, I share a 5-bedroom home with 4 other small families. My neighbors are from a Spanish-speaking country and don't know English very well. The language barrier is large between us. The way this house was built in 2015 does not allow for very good ventilation between rooms or floors. Additionally, the HVAC system does not have thermometers in each room. Instead, it's combined with a thermostat, one of which is located in the hall I share with my neighbors. It reads 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Celsius on average, but that's with both bedroom doors closed. Thus, the temperature in either one of our rooms can vary drastically. Since we share a thermostat, you can see where this is going. The landlord has expressed his wishes to keep the thermostat above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, 16 degrees Celsius, as long as it's colder than that outside. Easy enough. Open the window when it's hot and close it when it's cold. My desk is next to both of our windows, so that's primarily been my responsibility. Both parties tend to avoid conflict, so we haven't discussed this face-to-face or even through text. Every so often, my roommate and I will notice that it's uncomfortably hot or cold. Every time we've checked the thermostat, it's been set to either 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 27 Celsius or 10 Celsius. Naturally, we set it back to heat to around 64 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 degrees Celsius, and cool to 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Apparently, this does not suffice for our neighbors. They have been, over the past month, continuously setting the thermostat back to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, even when it's been below 40 outside. But here's the kicker. The AC wasn't even running until yesterday. The air coming out of the vents has been cold because most of our HVAC system is in an uninsulated garage. This knowledge was gifted to us by the landlord, who also doesn't speak Spanish, and he assumed we would pass the information to our neighbors. Yet again, as predicted, they set the thermostat to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius. But this time, we let it run like that all night, making sure to grab all the blankets from the shared laundry room. Remember, when the temperature in a room changes while the door is closed, the thermometer can't tell until the door opens. They sleep with their door locked, so all night, the HVAC system was blowing frigid air into their room. We woke up the next morning with the thermostat set to 66 to 70 degrees. Sweet, sweet victory. I know this is petty, but man oh man, is it nice to have a comfortable temperature to sleep in. Depending on where you live, I understand that you have to make do with what you can get, but man, 4 families in a 5-bedroom place? I can't even begin to envision what the setup even looks like. To be honest, it sounds like a bit of torture to have to juggle not only living amongst all those people that don't even have good language communication skills amongst everybody, but also, having to juggle something like the thermostat. I'm kind of curious, do they have a yard? How many kitchens do they have, you know? Is there a lot more going on than just the thermostat too? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another absolutely awesome malicious compliance story, check out that video on the left. Or if you missed my latest video, check out that video on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories